Australia's GDP figures are beating expectations as consumers spend more and save less. GDP expanded 2.8% for the 12 months to December. Now, while there appears to be a slump in investment, the figures do suggest that exports and domestic consumption boosted growth. The country has been relying on mining for most of that growth, and this will likely add to Australia's confidence that interest rates are doing their job. Recently, the country's central bank decided to hold interest rates at 2.5%. Meanwhile, the Australian meat industry is also on the rise, thanks to China's food safety concerns changing diet and demand for high-quality meat. Its red meat exports to China now account for 17% of the country's total exports. As Hannah Belcher found out, Chinese consumers just can't get enough of Australian beef.
A coating of peppercorns, a sizzle in the pan. Then this tender Australian beef eye fillet goes into the oven. Sydney chef David Beaton has lost count of the times he's cooked beef for Chinese customers.
They come here and order this, beef eye fillet with peppercorn sauce and frites, French fries.
David and his staff at Beaton Cafe have noticed their Chinese customers have become more focused on quality.
Especially the last 6 months, somehow we've been selling more beef than ever, so I guess we've got a great reputation. Australia's got a great reputation for the meat industry.
But Chinese demand for Australian beef goes beyond the Sydney cafe scene. Beef and veal exports to China have surged 371% in the past year. China's most popular Australian beef cut is brisket, with exports to China up 420%. Other popular Australian beef cuts include shin, silverside and knuckle.
Certainly, I think there's some concerns about Chinese agriculture generally, and about some of the practices, which we've seen with milk, etc. So I think that both those things, the desire for beef and beef from a safe market, are driving that increased desire.
Parts of rural Australia are in the grip of a drought, so beef exporters are struggling to fill overseas orders.
Last year was a lot of extra cattle went through to slaughter because of the drought conditions, so whether that continues into 2014 is a big question, I think, for us.
When the drought abates, Chinese beef lovers will be waiting. Australian beef exports to China rate behind Japan and the US, but are rapidly closing in on the #1 spot. Hannah Belcher, CCTV, Sydney, Australia.